Spiritual Teaching 150. Love each other. 1. You come in search of the comforting Spirit, because you have not found relief in your tribulations. You have come to the doors of doctors and lawyers, to the hearts of the beings who love you, and you have not managed to regain peace. And you have convinced that the balm or the light that you are looking for, you can only find it in the source from which everything good comes. All of you are looking for the true path. You need spiritual sustenance, the word of encouragement and hope that comes to revive yourselves. And as long as you get to achieve what you have been looking for, you make me present your concerns, your fear of divine judgment, and the desire to find peace with your conscience. 2. You are in my presence, even though you feel far from me. You are not alone in your pain. I accompany you. And if you call misunderstood, I tell you that I, the Father, know everything that happens inside you, and that I will give you the solution that you are looking for, the peace that you need, and the help to achieve your elevation. 3. When you first came to hear my word, you savored it and found it pure in its essence. You recognized that I was sending it to you. You have only doubted the way I communicate with man. But if you study it, you will recognize that I have not been wrong, and that man, because he is my son, is qualified to serve as my instrument to carry out my designs in the service of his brothers. 4. I am calling men, women, and children to make them my disciples, and while some believe, others doubt and distrust. That is because it has been deceived much, that today I speak to humanity, taking as interpreters of my teachings the understandings of rude, simple, and humble men. My manifestation seems to you strange. Recognize that my word is invariable in its truth, and that what I told you in the first era, I ratified it in the second, and I have confirmed it in the third. 5. All of you who in this way hear my word have been prepared to feel and understand this manifestation of my Spirit, and you only waited for the moment when he called you to witness these manifestations. I have not surprised anybody, since before coming to incarnate you, I told you that you would be present in these acts and that you belong to the number of beings chosen to bring the good news to the world. 6. The children of this time make me see their hazardous path. They tell me that the environment in which they breathe is not the most conducive to spirituality, and they ask me for the light for their parents and teachers. In them, since they were little, a struggle between spirit and matter, in which good and reason sometimes win, and at other times the flesh is superimposed. 7. Do not tell me that you are weak, if you carry the light of my Spirit. If I have endowed you with virtue and energy so that you can fulfill your duties, make an effort and use your power. 8. I have descended to all my children in search of their spirit, because it belongs to me, but not all of them want to follow me. Most of them ask me for one more time and tell me that for now they cannot come with me, and I have given each spirit the time necessary for its fulfillment. 9. It is true that you have suffered a lot in this time, and that you long to live a better life, and I say to you, live in peace, and whether in this world or in the spiritual valley, you will find rest. This earth that you dwell is a place of expiation, of struggle, of perfection. 10. If you want to remember the life of Jesus in the second era, you will find it strewn with sufferings, devoid of comforts and joys. He is the example, the model that is before your spirit, so that you imitate it. But everyone who comes to me will find relief, because I am the inexhaustible spring that overflows torrents. Take from there to water your plots. The lands are prepared for men to rush to cultivate them. The fields await you before they were covered with weeds or noxious herbs. Go and cultivate them. And when you see that the wheat has ripened, reap it together with the grass and later separate from each other. That is why I am always saying to you, watch and pray. Because if you are careless, the weed will make greater progress than your seed, and its fruit will be the one that abounds the day you harvest. Make your fields brown so that you can make your wheat penetrate into my barns and the harvest is abundant. 11. Humanity is hungry for my word, for my truth. Men claim and long for the light to come to their understanding. They cry out for justice and hope for comfort. This is a decisive time. In truth, I tell you that many ideas, theories, and even dogmas that as truths they held for centuries, they will fall to the ground and will be abandoned as false. Fanaticism and idolatry will be fought and exterminated by those who were most involved and attached to them. The teachings of God will be understood. His light, His content and essence will be understood and felt. 12. The men of science, after a time of trials in which they will suffer great confusion. When in your spirit there is light and you listen to the voice of your conscience, you will discover what you never had dreamed of. 13. Again I say to you, watch, because in the time of the struggles of creeds and doctrines, of religions and science, many men will believe that the knowledge that books have given them will be the weapon with which they can beat my new disciples, knowing that you don't carry books. When Jesus preached to the crowds, He did not tell them about teachings learned in books. However, He gave a professorship of wisdom. Proofs of it were given since His childhood, appearing in the bosom of the doctors of the law, to confuse them and make them mute with their questions and leave them astonished with their answers. The knowledge of Jesus came from the divine Spirit, which revealed everything to Him. 14. If any of you cleanse your understanding, strip your heart of bad feelings and low passions, and elevate his spirit to the Father to give himself to Him in love and service to his fellow men, become a clean fountain that I would fill with my inspiration. Would that man be like a clean glass at my table, which He would fill with the wine of life, so that in it those who perish would quench their thirst. One will know to prepare, convince those who speak to you, comfort with your word, silence the vain, perform works surprising, of those that the world calls miracles and that are nothing more than natural manifestations of love and of the faith of a high spirit. 15. When they ask you, why God, being so great, has He used an insignificant human being to manifest your wisdom? You will answer, God's love for His children has no limits. That is why He has used them to perform this prodigy. 16. Being powerful, eternal, infinite, and at the same time the Father of everything created, I can avail myself and use all my creatures for my divine purposes. In my Father's love, I do not come to notice your littleness, your sin. I seek you for your humility. If you consider your human form too small for God to take care of you, who gave you that form but me? Besides, when I became a man, was I not similar to you? 17. The echo of the voice that reaches your ears is that of the matter that a spokesperson interprets me in the moments of my manifestation. The word that reaches your mind and your heart is human, but the essence of that word is divine, and that is why it illuminates and comforts the spirit. 18. If I had come in human form to repeat my secondary lesson, I would have parked your spirit, and humanity would not have recognized me. But I, the Master of all perfection, take you step by step, always towards the top of the mountain, teaching you new lessons each time. 19. God is invisible to human eyes and even my own spirit because it has no shape or limits. That's why many looking at you elevated in prayer, listening to me, doubt this because they do not know that the divine and the spiritual, apparently invisible to human eyes, is felt by the spirit and even by the heart. 20. He who truly believes in me knows my voice wherever I speak to him. I'm like a shepherd that his sheep follow and whom they always recognize his voice. That is why at this time when I find myself speaking to you through human understanding, you have recognized my voice. You have not stopped to judge the deficiencies of the spokesman, nor have you taken into account the mistakes that his rudeness makes him commit. you have understood that it is I who speaks. When you hear my voice, you instantly recognize it to say, it is he. 21. It has always been the humble and the poor who discover my presence, because their understandings, they are not busy with human theories that keep them from clear discernment. 22. In the second era, it also happened that having announced the coming of the Messiah, when he arrived, those who felt him were the simple of heart, those of humble spirit and a clean mind. 23. The theologians had in their hands the book of the prophets and daily repeated the words that announced the signs, time and form of the coming of the Messiah. However, they saw me and did not recognize me. They heard and denied that I was the promised Savior. They saw my works, and the only thing they knew how to do was scandalized, when in truth, all of them had been prophesied. 24. When the day came when the mobs, incited by those who felt uneasy in the presence of Jesus, they wounded and flogged him, and saw him bleed like a mere mortal under the effect of the lashes, later dying like any human, the Pharisees, the princes and the priests exclaimed with satisfaction, "Who is named the Son of God, who was believed to be king and posed as the Messiah?" 25. It was for them, more than for others, that Jesus asked his Father to forgive those who, knowing the scriptures, they were denying him, and they were showing him to the crowds as an impostor. They were the ones who, claiming to be the doctors of the law, in reality, when judging Jesus, did not know what they were doing. While there, among the mobs, there were hearts stormed by pain before the injustice that they were witnessing, and faces flooded with tears before the sacrifice of the just. They were the men and women of simple heart and humble and high spirit, who knew who it was who had been in the world with the men and understood what they lost when the Master left. 26. People also at this time will be misjudged the form of communication under which you have had my word, and also the doctrine and the revelations that I have made to you will be denied by those who claim to know the way my return should be. They will not analyze my word, they will not seek its essence, nor will they take into account the wonders and signs that I have given you of my coming and of my truth. But they will take as a reason to deny me the imperfect works that they find in this people, their desecration and disobedience. Then they will get up saying, that one who told you that when 1950 came would stop communicating with you. Is it the Spirit of Christ? Can you say today that this demonstration will end and tomorrow proclaim otherwise? Because from now on I tell you that many will maintain that I will continue to communicate in the same way. When the year 1950 has passed, O beloved people, will you be the cause that tomorrow the world sees you like this and denies how much I have spoken to you? 27. See how I prepare you so that when the moment of my departure approaches you will not let the darkness penetrate into your heart. But I tell you that those who have truly felt and understood my word, they will turn away from the paths of confusion to seek me in solitude, from spirit to spirit. This call will hear in their hearts the unforgettable and well-known voice of their Master, who tells them, "Blessed are you who weep when contemplating the desecration of my work, because you know that this has been the reason that many do not know it and that others mock and deny it." 28. Pray and watch, disciples, so that you continue to recognize my voice among all the deceitful ones that the world provides, and thus you will be led with love and care to the end of a path, where my Father's bosom opens like a fold of infinite magnitude to keep forever those he raised with love and sent for their merits on earth, made them worthy of the perfect abode. 29. When I tell you that it is Christ who speaks to you, there is no lack of someone who judges these who transmit my word. But this way of judging and analyzing is not strange, given that their insensitivity to the spiritual it prevents from feeling me through the essence of my doctrine. 30. Once, in front of the Pharisees. I said, the Father and I are one, and they also called me a blasphemer, and they turned to the scriptures, trying to show that everything I said was false. 31. Today I tell you that whoever does not open the eyes of his spirit will not be able to look at the divine light, because no one has been as tested as Jesus was. 32. The men interrogated me, tied me up, tried to confuse me with their tendentious questions. They rebuked to prove my prudence, and finding no way to lose me despite their efforts, they accused me, they slandered and judged me, to see how the one who called himself Son of God behaved in that case. But not satisfied with all that, they also wanted to see if my body bled and if it was made of flesh and bone. And when on the way Jesus stumbled and bled, they uned their ears waiting to hear my complaints. 33. When I said that the Father and I were one, the Spirit spoke. But when the body bled, it was the human part that made the complaint, because it was raw flesh. 34. The world asked me to show it my truth, and I showed it the truth. But seeing, he did not look. My word and my works, they would have been enough to prove the divine power of who had made them. However, that power was not attributed to me, but my death as a man was not the end of those trials. I went in spirit before my disciples, and even among them there was one who put me to the test, and did not believe in the resurrection of his Lord, until he was convinced, digging his fingers into the wound on his side. 35. Later, when the seed of the word of Jesus spread from region to region and from nation to nation, the unbelievers, skeptics, materialists emerged at every step to continue submitting my doctrine to their reasoning, my words and my works. But men have not been made concrete to judge my truth only through my works and my doctrine, but they have devoted to scrutinizing my human nature, my formation, my birth, my childhood, and how many steps I took on earth. Also, neither did Mary escape this scrutiny, the holy and pure woman chosen by God to give the world the fruit of life. She also knew of the scorn, the trials, and the trials of men. It was not enough for them that since times gone by the prophet Isaiah would have announced her as virginal and pure. And even this is the time when men, through the religions and sects, discuss and deliberate on her. 36. I tell you that as long as humanity does not shed its materialism, when judging the truth, it will not be able to face it. 37. I forgive some and others, but I advise you not to continue taking my words to confuse each other, to hurt or kill you, because your judgment will have to be great. 38. If you deepen your discussions and come to hate each other because of your differences, when will you join in the truth that is only one? 39. Do not fear me, fear yourselves, says the Master. Did I judge from the cross those who sacrificed me? He had reproaches or complaints from Maria in that infinitely painful hour. No, people. 40. I'm not judging you now either. Truly I tell you, each one forms her own judgment and her sentence is passed. I want to free you from pain, from expiation, from the bitter cup. And for this I invite you to begin to love one another, because that is the path that can lead you to light, peace, and truth. 41. If you still think that your sufferings are due to your first parents, you will be committing your judgments to a lack of understanding with your God. 42. In a divine parable, I inspired the first men to begin to have knowledge of their destiny, but it was misinterpreted the meaning of my revelations. When you were told about the tree of life, the science of good and evil, of which man ate, you only wanted to understand that. When man came to have sufficient knowledge to distinguish between right and wrong and began to be responsible for his actions, from then he began to gather the fruit of his works. 43. Many have been the men who have accepted that all the tears of this world have been caused by a sin of the first settlers, and in their clumsiness to analyze the parable, they have even said that Christ came to wash away every stain with his blood. If such a statement had been true, why, despite the fact that that sacrifice has already been consummated, do men continue to sin and also suffer? 44. Jesus came to earth to teach men the way of perfection, a way that he taught with his life, with his deeds, and with his words. 45. You know that God said to men, "Increase and multiply and fill the earth." That was the primitive law that was given you, O people. Later, the Father will not ask men to just multiply and the species continue growing, but his feelings are higher and higher, and his spirit undertakes a frank development. But if the first law was the propagation of the human race, how do you conceive that the same Father applied a penalty for obeying and complying with his mandate? Is it possible, people, that in your God there is such a contradiction? 46. Look at what a material interpretation men gave to a parable in which only the awakening of the Spirit in man. Therefore, analyze my teaching, and say no more that you are paying the debt that the first settlers contracted with me for their disobedience. Have a higher idea of divine justice. 47. I have told you that even the last stain will be erased from the heart of man. But I also tell you that each one must wash their own spots. Remember that I told you, with the rod that you measure you will be measured, and what's sown is reaped. 48. This is the time in which you can understand me when I tell you, grow and multiply, that this must be also done spiritually, and that you must fill the universe with your good works and elevated thoughts. 49. I welcome all those who want to get closer to me, all those who seek perfection. 50. Rest from your earthly fatigue, my children. Penetrate within yourself, where the temple is, and meditate on my word. 51. I have destined you to spread the good on earth, which is true spirituality. 52. Do you feel incapable and small? Do you judge yourselves impure to be able to carry on your spirit a mission of this nature? You do not know my wisdom and my mercy. It is that you do not observe the examples with purity that at every step I give you through nature. 53. Do you not see how the rays, illuminating everything, reach the most infectious pond, volatilizing it, raising it to the spaces, purifying it, and finally turning it into a cloud that will pass over the fields, fertilizing them? 54. Sometimes you say to me, Master, how have you set your eyes on the humanity of this time, when there is no patriarchs, neither righteous, nor men who can be your apostles? If you see that we live in a world of mire and of sin, to which I answer, my power makes lilies sprout out of the same mud from where no one could imagine a flower of such wonderful purity to emerge. 55. Let the light of my word penetrate your being, so that it purifies you and elevates you, and soon you will rise fertilizing the hearts of your brothers. 56. Let in the midst of this life of sin and corruption that humanity lives, the clarity of your works and the purity of your prayers. And truly I tell you, your spirit will then have nothing to envy the lilies. 57. I will speak in this way for a short time that you will take advantage of as plants use of the fields the propitious season to grow, flourish, and bear fruit. 58. Truly, truly, I tell you, there is more love in repentant sinners than in those who have always been good. So, I will continue speaking, and sinners will continue to repent of their faults and increase the number of those converted. 59. The heart of the sinner is more sensitive to the loving touch of my word, and there are many men who they have sinned because their lives have lacked love. When they have heard my Father's voice, calling them, healing their wounds, understanding them as no one on earth has understood them, They have soon felt the divine touch on the most sensitive fibers, and they have experienced the perseverance of their master before them. 60. This is how many men go around the world looking for a phrase or a redeeming light, a consolation for their pain. They look for someone who will excuse them, who does not point out their faults, who tells them about a better life. But they do not. They find themselves in the world, and then they close in on themselves. They become hermetic and never trust your secrets. 61. Those hearts are only opened by the key of love, the one that I possess, and that precisely I come to entrust to everything, the one who opens his heart and tells me, Master, I want to follow you. 62. From the bottom of the heart of the crowd this question arises. Are you the Messiah? I only say to you, hear my word, penetrate its meaning, and seek its essence. 63. I speak the truth. I teach the way. I reveal the reincarnation that is lost so that the spirit is perfected and reach the goal of your destination. Do you doubt it? Truly I tell you, the truth is not altered by your doubts. She remains the same. 64. I tell you, never deny just because you don't understand. Think that if it were only true what your poor mind understands, nothing would exist. 65. There are those who say to me, Master, if you know everything, if even before the creatures are, you know them, did you know that at that time Judas was going to hand you over? Rude understandings that you still reach in these times to ask such questions. I know everything. That's why I chose him, because I knew that this man could not act differently, and it was essential that I make use of each of the imperfections of my disciples to deliver a lesson. 66. The disciple who betrayed his master is a symbol, an open book that exists in each human consciousness, so that you could understand its meaning and listen to its teachings. 67. Know that a Judas dwells in every man. Yes, disciples, because in your case the matter is Judas of the Spirit. Matter is the one that opposes the light of spirituality to shine, the one that stalks the Spirit to make him fall into materialism, into low passions. 68. But not because it is your matter that brings you to the abyss. You are not going to condemn it. No, because you need it for your advancement, and you will conquer it with your spirituality, as I conquered Judas with love. 69. I see that you doubt the power of love, that you doubt the power of faith, that you doubt my communication of spirit through human understanding, that you doubt even your gifts or powers that you have not yet developed. What can you do with so much doubt? What wonders can you feel? None. 70. You are so stubborn in your skepticism, and you are so strong in your doubt that you do not allow the light of the Spirit to reach the depths of your understanding with its sparkles. But when you get to spiritualize, when you come to live life according to my teachings and according to my will, you will see emerge from you the powers you denied and the gifts you never thought you had. 71. Then, when you are spiritual and have purity and meekness in your heart, you will see how everyone, also elements of nature, will be kind and obedient to you, because your spirituality made you enter into harmony with them. 72. When you have spirituality, you will not say again, Father, give me sustenance, give me material wealth. A lot less will you fall into the error of saying to me, Father, if you grant me what I ask, I will give you what I have, whatever you ask me. 73. Don't you believe, disciples, that this way of asking is equivalent to tempting your Father? Do you think that I can give you more and better when you give me? And what would become of you if, when you tell me to ask you what you have, whatever I want, in exchange for granting you what you request, I will retain what you love most in the world? Would you stand any test? 74. No, disciples, It is time for you to let your consciousness be the one to guide all your actions and thoughts. 75. Let your faith speak, and heaven will answer you. 76. The divine spirit was full of love, despite existing only him. 77. Nothing had been created. There was nothing around the divine being, and yet he loved and felt like Father. 78. Who did he love? Who did Father feel like? Of all beings and all creatures that were to sprout from him and whose strength was latent in his spirit. In that spirit were all the sciences, all elements, all natures, all principles. He was eternity and time. In him were the past, the present and future, even before worlds and beings come to light. 79. That divine inspiration came true under the infinite force of divine love, and life began. 80. The universe was filled with beings, and in it all the love, power, and wisdom of the Father was manifested. 81. As an inexhaustible spring of life was my breast, from that moment in which it arranged for the atoms to come together to form bodies and integrate beings. 82. First there was spiritual life. First came spirits and then material nature. 83. As it was arranged that many spiritual creatures would take corporeal form to inhabit material worlds, everything was previously prepared, so that the Lord's children would find everything ready. 84. He sowed blessings on the path that his children were to travel, flooded the universe with life, and filled with beauties the path of man, in which he deposited a divine sparkle, consciousness and spirit, forming it like this: love, intelligence, strength, will, and consciousness. But everything that existed he enveloped in his strength and pointed out their destination. 85. The Father remained there, as the beginning of all that exists, and after offering the universe for the path of evolution and improvement, he waited for the return of all his children, so that in him they also found their end, which would be the perfection of the Spirit and eternity. 86. That path traced to each element, each creature and each species, was the law that the Creator wrote indelible in their children. 87. Since then everything vibrates for the purpose for which it was created. Since then everything has been moving towards perfection, ceaselessly revolving around a mantle, a principle, and a law. 88. The Father, like the sower, took the elements of life that were in him, as if they were earth, and there deposited the seed of life that comes from his love, to wait for the day to gather a fruit as perfect as it was the seed. And how was the inspiration? 89. The men of science of these times are amazed to discover that their world has more time to live than that yesterday the first scientists assumed. And when they believe that the earth is a decaying star, about to go out, I tell you that he has lived so little yet, that he still has a long way to go to reach the degree to be able to house generations of grace and spirituality. My peace be with you.